Ant-Man and Atom both had many answers to each other's abilities and arsenals. Both were able to store various weapons at a shrunken state, both were trained in judo, and they both could obviously keep up with each other's ability to shrink at will.
Though there was one small thing Atom couldn't answer to: the ants! Hank's bond with his pets lent him some small advantages, and Ray just didn't have enough anti-ant tools in his bio belt.
But in Atom's defense, the fact that he could punch with a fist packed with all of his mass meant that a close-up fight, while small, would leave Hank with few options since he can only punch with his normal human strength.
Even still, all Ant-Man would need to do is keep his dissed ants with the help of his insect confidants and devise another plan of ant attack. Something Hank has no shortage of.
For instance, Ant-Man could alter Atom's size thanks to the Pym particle field he generates. Hank would just need to stall long enough to remove or disable Atom's biobelt, and he's had no trouble hacking enemy tech in the past.
But even with the biobelt busted, it wouldn't stop Atom's ability to shrink, since the White Dwarf power is contained throughout his suit. Destroying the belt only meant that Ant-Man could alter Atom's size.
Whereas Hank has literally rewritten his own biology to prevent outside size alteration. And while Atom's abilities are definitely impressive, they are limited, and Ant-Man simply aren't, at least by comparison. Hank could always match Ray's size or just take the fight to the overspace where he would have the edge, both physically and mentally.
The overspace can mess with the human mind, but we've seen that Hank can handle it.
But if the Scientist Supreme is really so smart, why didn't he just immediately go up Atom's butt and blow him up from the inside?
What's wrong with you, Wiz? Aren't you a fellow man of science?
This is the meanest thing you've ever done to me.
Atom sized up Ant-Man, but in the end, he was the one who had to say, Uncle.
The winner is Ant-Man.
KO!
You die!
Oh my god, this boss is bullshit!
This debate was fascinating. The Dragonborn had a wider variety of training, better access to summons, and magic that passively regenerated, as opposed to the Chosen Undead's limited pool of magic.
Vow of Silence was a slick counter to the Dragonborn's magic and shouts, but it wouldn't last forever.
The Dragonborn was significantly faster too. The Chosen Undead could dodge beams of light, sure, but Oriel's bow could fire arrows that move at least 250 times that.
But none of that mattered if the Chosen Undead couldn't stay dead.
You'd think the Dragonborn's anti-undead weaponry like Dawnbreaker would be an easy solution, but the undead of Dark Souls aren't really the same as Draugr from Skyrim.
Skyrim undead are more like those classic reanimated skeletons. But remember the conspiracy. Humans in Dark Souls are naturally immortal. They're not actually undead.
Soul Tear wouldn't have been much use either, considering humans in Dark Souls can have their souls removed without dying.
So why didn't the Chosen Undead just keep coming back until they eventually won? Like with any Dark Souls boss.
One word: power. The Dragonborn had way more and greater feats of raw power than the Chosen Undead.
Oh yeah, like summoning country-spanning storms with a single shout, or defeating Mirak, who split a continent.
There's also the lore. Both characters are essentially mythological demigods in the same kind of vein as Hercules or Sun Wukong. Gameplay alone won't give you the best idea of their full power as characters.
So let's get an idea of their max potential from the lore.
The Chosen Undead sustaining the First Flame with their soul was insanely impressive. Considering the First Flame is responsible for the core concepts of the universe, like energy and time, it's not a stretch to say it affects not just the planet they live on, but the whole universe.
But that's nothing compared to the power levels in the Elder Scrolls.
Let's compare the First Flame to Alduin. Both literally run on the power of souls, and both can be directly scaled to our combatants.
Alduin had strength to consume the universe, not just Nirn, but the Kalpa as well.
You know those planets you see in the sky? According to cosmology, those are actually separate, infinitely big planes of reality. Alduin was going to eat infinity. Multiple infinities.
In comparison, the First Flame is powerful enough to sustain a universe and the flow of time. But it can't be infinite, otherwise it never would have faded to begin with.
And that meant the Chosen Undead just wasn't powerful enough no matter how many times they revived. With that much of a difference in power, the Chosen Undead would eventually lose their will to fight and go hollow. It's not traditional, but it is a form of death in Dark Souls. The Chosen Undead was surely tenacity personified, but still wasn't enough to stand up to the Dragonborn's incredible skill, broken arsenal, and overwhelming power.
The Chosen Undead could only last so long before they flamed out.
The winner is the Dragonborn.
KO!
The angle, the electromagnetism, the science. It's...
All right, take a breather there, champ.
Whew. While Killua's assassin training made him a vicious threat, Misaka's abilities and know-how gave her the counter she needed in this mind-numbing battle of wits.
Killua could survive kilowatt-ton level blasts, and given some leeway, could scale to Yuppie, whose crater feat was worth 18 megatons of TNT.
Impressive, but the storm Misaka created beat anything Killua has done directly. And given similar scaling to Brunhild, who Misaka not only harmed but stalemated, her output could reach hundreds of megatons of TNT. Meaning, no matter which numbers are used, Misaka would always have the advantage in raw electrical power.
No surprise there. Killua may have shrugged off 1,000,000 volts of electricity, but Misaka can dish out and survive billions.
Still, both characters have contended with and harmed stronger opponents, and the two power systems they work under have allowed weaker opponents to defeat stronger ones in the past.
So, might alone wouldn't net either a win. Plus, Killua was way better at hand-to-hand and physically stronger.
Knowing his crafty assassin skills, things could have gone south for Misaka if she wasn't careful.
But fortunately for the railgun, she was. Her fight with Brunhild shows she knows how to deal with tough, up-close threats while keeping her distance.
And being able to dodge particle beams meant Misaka was more than fast enough to react to even Killua's lightning-quick speed.
Add to that her bigger pool of powers, and she had plenty of ways to counter Rhythm Echo, since Killua was lightning, or just pin him in place long enough to pull off a railgun finisher. Killua was strong, but he wasn't gonna outmuscle 6 million tons of iron sand.
Killua was a prodigy in all things Nen, lightning, and killing, but Misaka's varied electro powers, quick reflexes, and scientific brilliance let her cash in a win.
But hey, at least she let Killua keep the change. She Killua'd him!
The winner is Misaka Mikoto.
Double KO! You know, brutally murdering Ice Cream Guy wasn't necessary, Wiz, but I felt it was an artful touch.
Though similar in many ways, Stitch and Rocket's fighting styles were polar opposites.
Stitch was more than strong enough to tear Rocket apart physically, while Rocket's guns were powerful enough to kill people even stronger than Stitch. So the question was simple. If both of them only needed one hit to win, who would get the killing blow first?
It all came down to speed. Rocket has dodged lasers, and his guns could operate down to the picosecond, 1/trillionth of a second.
But Stitch's supercomputer brain could operate down to the quintillionth of a second, 1,000,000 times faster, at minimum.
And his ability to pilot that ship at over 1,000,000 times the speed of light meant that he more than had the reaction speed to dodge anything Rocket threw at him.
Rocket's tactical brilliance meant he could keep Stitch at bay with tricks for a while, but he couldn't reliably seal the deal. Despite being a little blue goblin, Stitch usually stays level-headed in a fight, whereas Rocket can be way more impulsive.
And frankly, Stitch is probably even smarter considering he has the combined IQ of an entire galaxy.
One slip up from Rocket is all Stitch would need to end the fight.
Rocket's arsenal was absolutely bonkers to be sure, but Stitch's superior speed, physical strength, and unbelievable intelligence gave him the win.
Looks like this Rocket's blasting off again!
The winner is... What's going on? What's going on?
Oh, there's a f***ing turkey here too! Where's he gonna leave the turkey behind?
The winner is Stitch.
KO! Well, Vader may have been able to beat Obi-Wan, but he just couldn't handle Obi-2.
This was a fairly complex matchup. Both Darth Vader and Obito were roughly even in power and speed, so it truly came down to their skill and arsenals.
And boy, did they have some deep bags of tricks, even some of the same tricks. Both could fend off mental attacks, both could move things around with their minds, and they both even had options to instantly kill each other.
Vader could simply force crush Obito's body, but Obito could just as easily rip out Vader's soul. However, Obito had a few more impressive options available to him, edging out just enough to earn a win.
For starters, Kamui made Obito extremely difficult just to touch, let alone injure. And as a Jinchuriki, he could regenerate from half of his body getting destroyed. While the dark side could help Vader survive extreme conditions, it obviously can't regrow limbs.
Plus, thanks to his wide array of jutsu, Obito would eventually overwhelm Vader. While chakra may normally be a limited source of energy, unlike the Force, the Ten Tails provided Obito with an unlimited supply. And since chakra is both spiritual and physical energy, this means Obito would be able to fight on indefinitely.
Last but not least, Vader's preference for lightsaber combat means that he'd be up close and personal with Obito, right? Which left him vulnerable to getting disintegrated by one of the many truth-seeking orbs, Or even worse, sucked up into the Kamui dimension. Yeah, don't forget about that. Not only would he have no way out, he probably wouldn't even be able to tap into the Force while stuck there. Game over. Have fun starving to death, I guess. Wonder how long you can feed on hate.
Darth Vader may have had a tenacity that few others could match, but against Obito's similar might, busted regeneration, and overwhelming range of abilities, there was no escape.
In the end, Vader's victory just wasn't meant to be.
The winner is Obito Uchiha.
KO! You know, I think they could have just talked this one out.
This was a nail-biter, and perhaps that's surprising, since Raven's reputation hardly matches that of the almighty Phoenix.
Probably because Raven's always holding back. When she does it, you don't have to dig too deep to see that these two are evenly matched in power.
The Phoenix Force was strong enough to hold back the destruction of all creation, but Raven had multiple showings of battling similarly powerful characters like Trigon and the Spectre, and both could compete with speeds exceeding infinity.
Sure, Jean got a power boost in the White Hot Room, but that didn't make her invincible. The Phoenix has been overpowered there before, like by this big green cat. So throw stats out the window. This fight came down to their abilities.
Both were immeasurably powerful telepaths, both could control matter and time, and both could absorb each other's energy. However, Raven's ability to survive and fight as just her soul meant that most of Jean's offensive arsenal could not end the fight.
The Phoenix Force could have attempted to possess Raven's soul, but Raven has tethered her essence to other similarly powerful beings and absorbed them in the past.
And while the Phoenix's fire has shown to burn souls, Raven's has regenerated from complete disintegration.
On the flip side, Jean actually had very little defense against Raven's soul manipulation. The Phoenix could regenerate Jean's body, but not her spirit.
When Rachel Gray's soul was shattered, the Phoenix was actually incapable of healing it on its own. And while the Phoenix Force itself will be reborn in the White Hot Room, this can take months, years, even centuries.
So it could be one hell of a war of attrition, but ultimately only Raven had the ability to finish this battle.
Jean Grey was one of the strongest beings we've ever seen. But Raven's own awesome might, brilliant magic, and unique soul-destroying powers snuffed out her fire for good.
Will the Phoenix rise again, returning from that far, far shore? Quoth the Raven, nevermore.
The winner is Raven.
KO! I don't know what's scarier, Dimitri the Demon or Guts still standing there. He was a badass till the end.
Being fast enough to dodge lightning, Guts actually had a slight speed advantage over Dimitri, though skills like seal movement and swordbreaker helped Dimitri close the gap.
And while Dimitri had some minor healing magic to fall back on, it wasn't gonna compete with the raw endurance from the Berserker armor.
Still, Dimitri's absurd strength and wider pool of weapons and abilities gave him plenty of ways to wear Guts down. Against Dimitri's electricity magic, Guts' sword and armor were vulnerable conductors, making every clash an opportunity to electrocute him.
Sure, Guts has defeated lightning callers before, but he needed help. Not to mention moves like Atrocity can pierce through armored foes, bypassing half the point of wearing the Berserker armor.
Guts could power through some of Eredfar's damage, but he wasn't invincible and could not heal from fatal wounds.
Then there's both fighters' raw power. Slaying demons is really impressive, obviously, but not always on par with magic nukes.
Remember, in Edelgard's route, she defeated Rhea, who survived 2 Javelins of Light. In Dimitri's route, he defeated Edelgard while she was a powered-up crest monster. That happened.
So, if Rhea could take on the Javelins of Light, Dimitri should be at a similar level. So, let's find out how strong a Javelin is.
In Vodlin's lore, several Javelins decimated a forest, forming the Valley of Torment. However, the exact number of Javelins used to create the valley was never given, making the power of an individual Javelin unclear.
But we do know the Javelins in this attack were supposed to hit the Garrigmok Monastery, until the goddess Sothis noped them away and they hit the forest instead.
We also know that the Javelins of Light are not limitless, with typically no more than 6 being used at once, even against structures similar in size to Garrigmok.
So, if a similar amount were used in the attack that made the valley, each Javelin would pack a payload that's over 3 gigatons of TNT.
Even if we severely lowballed this and said the destruction was divided between 10, 50, or even 100 different Javelins of Light, surviving 2 Javelins would still be greater than the best of Guts' feats, even scaled to the Sea God. Guts' persistence meant he wouldn't go down easy, but against Dimitri's inhuman strength, devastating abilities, and fervent willpower, it was just a matter of time before the vengeful king wore through him.
Saying it makes me berserk, but Guts could only go so fargus.
The winner is Dimitri Alexandra Blathid.
KO! Wiz, what the hell are we doing? Why are we forcing such beautiful souls to fight to the death?
Both the Silver Surfer and the Martian Manhunter were two extraordinarily powerful beings, each with very wide power sets.
So they both had counters for almost everything they could throw at each other. They could both phase through objects, rearrange molecules, and regenerate their own bodies.
But arguably the biggest thing on the Martian Manhunter's side was his formidable telepathy. The Surfer has had his memories erased and his emotions manipulated by Galactus, so it would stand to reason that Jean could pose a mental threat to the Surfer.
But the Surfer has resisted mental attacks many times. When Psycho Man played on the Surfer's guilt and pretended to be his lost love, the Surfer saw right through it, and he escaped the Supreme Intelligence's mind when it was using the frickin' Mind Stone.
These two could have gone toe-to-toe around the universe for a long time, but when it came down to it, the question was, who had the power to put the other down for good?
They both have some serious healing factors and have come back from basically nothing. But if ending Martian Manhunter meant destroying his every atom one by one, the Surfer has the means to make that happen thanks to the seemingly endless well of energy that is the power cosmic.
It's truly an overwhelming source of unlimited power, and outside of Galactus stripping the power away from him, the Surfer is never without it.
It's like a battery. Even if Jean could drain all of the cosmic energy, the Surfer can just recharge it. And he's used that power to destroy planets, defeat Galactus-level threats, and can basically accomplish anything with it.
While both of these philosophic heroes tend to hold back out of a respect for life, there's obviously no holding back here, and the depth of Silver Surfer's abilities gave him the win.
This Martian was harsh in his mellow, so the Surfer had to wave goodbye. Bodacious Cowabunga Hang 10 Ninja Turtles!
The winner is the Silver Surfer.
KO! Hey, that's my line!
Public service announcement. If a yellow triangle in a top hat offers you a Faustian bargain, please do not accept. He might be angry at us.
This fight was almost dead even. They can both manipulate space and time to such a degree that speed is essentially meaningless, and both at their peak could control their universes, possibly even the multiverse.
Sure, Discord could potentially drain Bill's energy with the Bewitching Bell, but remember the Shacktron?
While the unicorn hair barrier stopped Bill from entering, its magic nullifying aura was not effective on him. If he wasn't drained of his power by extensive contact with that, it's unlikely the bell would do the same.
So with two characters who can do basically anything, how would they even kill each other?
Both can restore their bodies from nothing, but only Bill has been shown regenerating damage to his spirit. Likewise, even in a weakened state, Bill has been able to manipulate and damage spirits himself, which is extremely useful considering we know fully erasing Discord will kill him.
While Discord's trickery may frustrate Bill for a while, his ability to see an infinite kaleidoscope and literally tell the future would let him cut through the tricks and vaporize him, body and soul.
Now, it is worth remembering that Bill has been defeated before, when he was trapped in a mind that was being erased.
And Discord had all the tools to replicate something like that.
However, that scenario relied on Bill's tunnel vision on invading Ford Pine's mind specifically, as well as his myopic underestimation of us lowly humans. Against other cosmic beings like Time Baby, he went for the kill immediately.
For the record, Discord has been tricked in the past too. They both had their fair share of embarrassing moments, and they're both smarter than their mistakes at their best. The real difference is that Discord is consistently more carefree in his approach. He's used to being superior to those around him, and has been shown not to take threats seriously until it's too late.
Like with Tirek, another crafty, manipulative schemer kind of like Bill.
With his trillion years of reality-destroying malevolence, Bill was able to take advantage of Discord's carefree attitude and get the opportunity to land a killing blow first.
Discord was incredibly powerful, unpredictable, and fearsomely persistent, but Bill's powers and ruthless instincts gave him the edge he needed.
Discord could try every angle, but Bill just had his eye on the prize.
Let me out or I'll eat your dreams!
The winner is Bill Cipher.
Ja, look out, McGrath is everybody in the shooting.
KO! Oh, now I know where that script was in the trash. I had to hear someone say awesome sauce.
Both opponents were incredibly versatile and deadly, and both could match each other's powers blow for blow.
They could each create weapons, amplify their strength, and fight at range.
But could Cole survive Alex's infection? Well, Alex would usually need to weaken an opponent to get that trick to work. Even then, the Ray Sphere incident that created Cole's powers in the first place ripped apart everyone else down to the atomic level, and the Beast's attacks were capable of the same thing. Considering the Blacklight virus only works down to molecular DNA, it's reasonable to say Cole would be able to resist it.
Sure, Alex could have potentially consumed Cole's biomass to give himself an edge, but Cole could just do the same thing to Alex, absorbing his bioelectricity to power himself back up.
But nothing could challenge the gap in power. Everything Alex survived could simply not match Cole's force fields, and especially not the power of the Beast. The blast the Beast created actually had a much wider radius than the one the Supreme Hunter could survive. To compete with these foes, this means Cole was simply far more powerful than Alex.
Speaking of the Beast, Cole's ability to disintegrate it at the atomic level meant that even Alex's crazy molecular regeneration couldn't stand up to Cole's might.
Just like how Cole could overpower Kessler despite his resistance to electricity, or how he resisted Sasha's mind control powers, which were eerily similar to the Blacklight virus.
But I bet you're wondering, what if Alex fought evil Cole instead? Well, it'd be even worse, because that Cole took the Beast's power for himself. That's good night for Angry Virus Boy.
Alex was a versatile, deadly opponent, but Cole's counters, speed, and raw power gave him the edge.
Alex got the Cole shoulder, just like this stupid script.
The winner is Cole McGrath.
KO! Wrong again, Frieza. It was actually 1 minute and 10 seconds. Idiot.
Megatron's ruthless resilience may have netted him a win in some scenarios, but Frieza's overwhelming power gave him a clear edge.
Megatron's ace in the hole was his antimatter, which would have annihilated Frieza's ass no matter how tough it was.
And that was a real possibility. Megatron is a master tactician and manipulator with millions of years of combat experience. Frieza, on the other hand, has always relied on his raw power and intimidation to win fights.
When things don't go his way, he has a tendency to freak out.
However, Frieza has survived getting most of his body obliterated and kept going.
Which meant the antimatter wasn't a surefire win. It would have to completely cover Frieza's whole body before he could react. And Frieza was way too fast for that.
While Megatron scaled to characters who could cross galaxies, Frieza has kept up with Goku, who should be at least trillions of times faster.
And on his smaller size and key force fields, Frieza had more than enough ways to avoid, defend, or survive the antimatter.
So Megatron's only option was power. While Megatron has survived planet-busting explosions and even fought with a being that had the energy of a universe behind it, Golden Frieza was just too much for him, considering he certainly surpassed Goku in Beerus' Punch Clash. Since Universe 7 as a whole should be over 13 times larger than our own universe, Frieza's super forms would far exceed Megatron's own power.
And that feat happened at the beginning of Dragon Ball Super. Goku has gotten leagues stronger since then, and Black Frieza is currently beyond him. There was just no way Megatron was strong enough to keep up.
Megatron was a devious foe, but Frieza's power, speed, and sheer survivability allowed him to crush the Decepticon leader underfoot.
I guess you could say Megatron was cool, but Frieza was cooler.
The winner is Frieza.
KO! So do you think that place is offering discounted tickets or too soon? Yeah, I'll order online.
Gojo and Makima were complicated to compare. On the surface level, Gojo had a lot going for him.
It's no surprise, given that his reputation in Jujutsu Kaisen is that of its pinnacle. At least it was.
First of all, it's unlikely Makima would see Gojo as inferior to her, in a similar way to how she saw Denji. So she wouldn't be able to immediately control Gojo.
Gojo's birth caused a giant shift in the world of curses. Plenty of people have recognized that after only seeing him once. Being better than everyone is literally Gojo's thing.
Plus, Gojo automatically refreshes his brain with positive cursed energy 24/7. Even if Makima could control him, it wouldn't last very long.
Gojo was obviously stronger too. The best feat we can compare Makima to is the Typhoon Devil's Storms. But that's nothing compared to the meteor created by Jogo, who is leagues below Gojo in strength.
However, considering she reacted to the Gun Devil fragment, Makima would actually be a bit faster, though she would need to be able to get past Limitless for her speed to matter.
Makima had more devils than you can shake a fin at, but most were rendered moot against Limitless. Knives, fire, bombs, zombies, it's all stuff Gojo's dealt with before, and with zero issues.
And Gojo could easily wipe out her demonic crowd with red and blue whenever he wanted to.
The future devil could clue her in on anything nasty coming her way, but that wouldn't last forever. Plus, with Gojo's 6 eyes and teleportation, she had zero opportunities to break away and set up her instant kill moves.
But Gojo would obviously lose if he couldn't permanently kill Makima. 6 Eyes couldn't inform him of Makima's contract with the Prime Minister, and eventually one of Gojo's attacks could cause his death instead. even if it took a while.
And Makima did have a way past Limitless with her finger guns. Makima could land attacks directly on Gojo's body, meaning there's no projectile for Limitless to detect and infinitely slow down.
Though when they did land, Gojo's healing ensured that he repaired his body quickly.
On the flip side, Makima didn't have a counter to Gojo's domain expansion. Unlimited Void overloads its target with unlimited information. It's not really an attack.
You could call it an attack on the senses, but even if she could transfer it to other Japanese citizens, she still could not escape an infinite amount of information.
We can compare this to the Doll Devil, who was defeated by a technique similar to Unlimited Void.
Despite being able to transfer her mind across a large number of hosts, the Doll Devil was still trying to transfer infinite information across finite people. Even with all of Japan as mental meat shields, Makima would still be overwhelmed.
Wait, doesn't that mean Gojo just unintentionally killed basically everyone in Japan?
Don't think about it. Regardless, Gojo is immune to his own Unlimited Void, so he was still unaffected.
Good for him. The moment Unlimited Void landed, Makima would be stuck, opening her up for a good old hollow purple.
Her contract isn't perfect. Makima only ever regenerated as long as there was some mass to come back from.
But hollow purple disintegrates anything it touches to zero. Literally. There's no way she was regenerating from that.
Sure, control as a concept will always exist, but a reincarnation of the Control Devil isn't Makima. This was one of the craziest fights we've ever had. However, with Gojo's raw power, broken counters, and unbelievably busted Limitless, Makima lost control over this fight.
Makima thought she had Gojo by the ball and chain, but in the end, she was left hollow.
The winner is Satoru Gojo.
KO!
Wait, what? Who won?
Wiz, as happy as I am to avoid on-screen dog murder, wasn't one of them supposed to die?
Not since the Great North Central Singularity event of 2015 have we had a result like this. It can't end like this, right?
Even with Courage's insane cosmic feats, you'd think the Zabrinsky Triangle would be enough to seal the deal. But both pooches could regenerate from basically any kind of physical damage.
Both were incredibly smart in different ways. Scooby was more of a trickster with his dupes, while Courage was a scheming genius. Computer could have given Courage the edge if not for their canon crossover, where it failed to have solid information on Scooby and the gang.
So I guess it came down to their unique abilities. And for 90% of their arsenals, they were evenly matched. Transmutation, mind control, you get it. They're tunes with basically anything, except for the Chest of Demons and the Dark Matter Meteor.
Sure, the chest could theoretically always trap Courage, but he'd always be able to escape and destroy it with the Dark Matter Meteor.
But Scooby could repair the damage by reversing time and then trap him again.
And then Courage would break out again. You know where this is going.
Ultimately, this battle between man's best friends would never end.
But this is a death battle. Somebody has to die.
Someone did, Wiz. Someone did.
Did anybody tell you that you're kind of scary sometimes?
I don't like dog killers.
Scooby and Courage were incredibly tough opponents that could go blow for blow for blow. They were smart, powerful, and incredibly broken.
Doggone it, Wiz. I guess you could say Eustace had one hell of a rough day. I shih tzu not. Oh, those were powerful.
Stop. This battle is a draw.
KO! Live by the portal, die by the portal.
Let's break this down. First off, Rick and the Doctor could both dodge lasers, making them pretty even, so neither could reliably win a quick draw.
Also, neither have shown any consistent signs of strength all that different from an above-average human.
The Doctor could get a superhuman strength boost during regeneration, but that is fairly incidental. So as far as physical ability is concerned, neither had a significant edge.
But when it comes to weapons, Rick had way more deadly killing machines, a lot of which could wipe out whole planets, galaxies, and more. If he could get the jump on the Doctor, he'd have a good chance of winning.
Of course, there's similar speeds meant he probably wasn't getting that opportunity. There's no denying his firepower was superior overall, but that still had to contend with the Doctor's technology.
Yeah, despite all of Rick's crazy inventions, most of which could kill a normal person instantly, the Doctor matched or countered pretty much all of it.
Being a Time Lord meant he could resist any time-warping trickery Rick threw at him, and the sonic screwdriver could hack and even destroy nearly everything Rick had. The Sonic has even disabled teleportation and time travel technology before, making it more than capable of hijacking Rick's portal gun, which has been hacked in the past.
With that gun, Rick was kind of a sitting duck.
Operation Phoenix makes killing Rick permanently almost impossible, but the Doctor's reality-altering tech like the DMAT meant there would be no Rick left to upload to a new body at all, effectively ending the fight in a single shot. And that was hardly the only reality-warping super weapon the Doctor had access to. The Doctor's technology presented a clear advantage.
Now let's talk ships. This one's pretty clear-cut. The space cruiser was a deadly machine that towed a solar system, but the TARDIS single-handedly held off a universe-destroying event. That's an edge for the Doctor.
But perhaps most important of all was their experience and intelligence.
Rick mastered space and time to the point of becoming a veritable god. But you could say the same for the Doctor, who is way older. It's kind of like the Doctor has been Rickin' for many times longer than Rick himself.
And when push comes to shove, the Doctor is just as experienced of a warrior as Rick ever was, if not more so.
11 spent 900 years battling Daleks, Cybermen, Sontarans, and more on Trenzalore and came out on top.
And don't forget how quickly the Doctor can formulate, calculate, and initiate plans. Like when he dodged half a dozen rays and improvised thousands of calculations in his head to siphon the ray's energy into a teleporter, all in a matter of nanoseconds.
Rick usually relies on being the smartest guy in the room. When he's forced to battle people at his own level, he's often outsmarted, like with the Prime Rick or, gasp, a Morty!
Rick was a formidable genius, but the Doctor's incredible technology, unmatched intelligence, and thousands of years of experience gave him the win.
Ah, geez. I bet Rick was absolutely mortified to lose.
The winner is the Doctor.
KO! That's it! The final, indisputable answer! Ah, who am I kidding? People are gonna argue this one forever.
There are so many ways this battle could go, especially with all the other continuities.
Yeah, for real, Goku would kick almost every other Superman's ass, except for the main one.
There's a lot to cover, so let's address the 5 categories most representative of this fight.
First up, strength. Both could hit hard enough to break or make their whole universe, or take it in stride, like when Superman got smacked by the whole antimatter universe.
At most, Dragon Ball's universe is 1,505 times larger than our own, but based on the DC Universe's officially established age and rate of expansion, it is 1.6 vigintillion times larger, over a novemdecillion times more than Goku's.
At some point you reach a number high enough that it just doesn't mean anything anymore. Anyway, Goku's obviously gotten stronger since the Beerus fight, even by billions or trillions of times. He's defeated Jiren, Broly, Moro, and Fu.
But even if we highball Goku by quadrillions or quintillions of times, the gap is just too much, especially with the World Forger feat. Not even Heroes competes with that. Superman takes the edge in strength.
But strength isn't everything. Let's talk speed. Both are obviously way faster than light, but Superman crossed that mega-sized universe of his in seconds and flew faster than infinity.
Makes sense, he can keep up with the Flash, whose speed is so ludicrous it's unquantifiable.
Don't count Goku out though. Flying across the entire afterlife in base form and outspeeding Eos's future sight takes some crazy speed.
Fighting Zamasu as an omnipresent merged timeline also implies immeasurable speeds.
That, combined with instant transmission and ultra instinct, could probably keep up.
Maybe. Quantifiably, Superman is faster, but both are immeasurable. The safest bet here is to say they tie in speed.
Especially when we look at skill. Goku's a martial arts master. He's definitely got better battle instincts. He wants to fight and is dedicated to his training, while Superman sees training as a means to an end.
Superman's knowledge in pressure point combat and Kryptonian martial arts are impressive, but he's only used them a few times. It would be disingenuous to say he's an equivalent master at them.
So Goku wins in skill, but not necessarily in experience.
Don't get it wrong, Superman is not a mindless brawler. He's trained with Batman and Wonder Woman. He's even defeated martial arts experts like Cobra without powers.
Goku has spent decades training, but Superman battled Norse demons for 1,000 years.
He's also astonishingly brilliant, like when he reassembled the reality-warping miracle machine from memory. Experience obviously goes to Superman, but perhaps less obvious is our last category, powers.
Hakai, Spirit Bomb, Mafuba, Instant Transmission, God Key, God Bind. How does Goku not win with those?
In Dragon Ball, Ki is dependent on physical ability, so it's different from magic. God Ki is simply pure Ki, and magic isn't an auto win against Superman anyway, whose greater strength could break out of something like the God Bind.
Mafuba and the Spirit Bomb would take way too long, and Goku's never successfully used Hakai before. Even if he did land it, Superman's impossible to erase from reality. Like, he's tanked Omega Beams, which do the same thing as Hakai.
Superman can time travel, countering Instant Transmission's similar ability from Heroes. And regarding teleporting him to a red star, ignoring the fact that Saiyans can't breathe in space, though Goku's certainly tough enough to withstand a vacuum, Instant Transmission requires another person to act as a beacon. He can't just warp to any red star.
Even if he did, Superman could simply fly away and find a blue or white star for a supercharge.
And Goku could not pull off the same trick twice, as Superman could phase through his attacks.
So, that's it then. Clark has too many counters, so he takes the edge in powers and it's over.
Well, I think there's something else. Goku versus Superman breaches a broader zeitgeist. It's more than just two characters fighting. For a whole generation, especially in 90s America, superheroes represented an unyielding status quo. Spider-Man, Batman, Captain America rarely change who they are or what they believe in. For a lot of people, that's tiring, and Superman is an icon of that. Then along came anime. There was a whole other world of ideas and stories for us sheltered Westerners to experience, and Goku's an icon of that. So while many see this as a debate between characters, others see it as a debate of ideologies and culture. And if that's what's at stake, who wants Goku to lose?
You sure you're not overthinking this?
It's not our intent, but it does call into question what we're doing. How can people agree with what we take as fact when fiction relies on interpretation? Are we stripping characters of their importance by simplifying them to contestants in a vacuum of violence? And if so, then what's the point?
Because it's fun, Wiz! Damn it, man! There's more than one way to appreciate something. We're having a great time talking about awesome characters and slamming action figures together. And that's okay.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm just saying, no matter who you prefer, that battle was super, man.
That's the worst pun.
What? It fits them both.
It's so lame.
I don't see you doing any better.
I do the math, the pun's your job.
Well, maybe if you math as good as I punned, then Goku would have won.
What is wrong with you?
KO!
We know Galactus and Unicron were beings who could manipulate reality itself and do basically anything.
Older than the universe, unbound by time, they had each other matched in a lot of ways.
So it ultimately came down to which of them was more powerful.
Both could threaten an entire infinite multiverse, but Unicron could only do so over time, devouring them one by one.
While Galactus' battle with the Scryer and the other threatened to destroy the entire Marvel multiverse as just a side effect.
Not to mention, Galactus tussles with cosmic beings like himself all the time.
While Unicron is usually the top dog in Transformers, he's a big fish in a relatively small pond. Relative to Marvel, at least.
That might sound better for Unicron at first, but it means he has way less experience than Galactus in full-on fights against dudes his size.
And while Unicron has used Dark Energon to infect and corrupt other beings in the past, Galactus technically doesn't have a soul thanks to his cosmic rebirth from Galen. And he's fended off mental attacks before, so there's no real reason to think that would work here.
And as lame as it is, the ultimate nullifier is just really, really overpowered.
Despite Unicron being able to survive the destruction of his spark, the ultimate nullifier is significantly more thorough. Consider the time it was used against Abraxas, a being that embodied the abstract concept of the multiverse's destruction.
Sounds like somebody you know? Even against someone like that, the good old Oli Nully had no problem erasing him from reality. And the same would happen to Unicron, while Galactus could always hide in that pocket dimension, just as he escaped the nullifier before.
Unicron was an insanely terrifying threat, but Galactus had the power, experience, and arsenal to ultimately annihilate him.
If you thought Galactus was going down in this fight, you were Unicron.
The winner is Galactus.